Today, I want to tell you the story behind of Haenuli's Snow White print. This design was created with the intention of being approached in many different ways. It is rooted in dark romance and gothic fantasy rather than sweet fairy tale. The bodice is made from solid single-color fabric, while the skirt carries the entire story. Across the skirt, Snow White, the dwarfs, and the queen disguised as an old woman appear inside of the vast forest scene. The tall trees of the forest form a large-scale print, and together they visually become vertical stripes. Usually the stripes are beautiful because of their repetition of uniformity, but here the stripes are made of dense forest trees, not perfectly uniform, only sharing a vertical direction. From a distance, they read as stripes, but up close, they feel alive and organic. This visual effect was intentional. The vertical flows makes the legs appear longer, and when the gathered skirt pulls the stripes towards the waist, it creates an optical illusion that makes the waist look much slimmer. The dress was produced in two different fabrics, jacquard and chiffon. Jacquard is a thick fabric created by weaving patterns directly into the textile. It has texture, structure, and high durability, and it feels very luxurious. However, because Haenuli's print uses a heat transfer sublimation method, it was technically difficult to fully saturate the ink between the woven fibers. This required many discussions with the factory at the time. Chiffon, on the other hand, it is light, thin, and soft. It moves gently with the body, has a sheer, airy quality. It emphasizes the flow and the drape, completely the opposite in the nature of jacquard. Because of this, even though the design is same, the two dresses feel very differently when it's seen in the person. The bodice was kept solid color to highlight each fabric strength. Lace and the frills details were added for richness, and the built-in bonding supports the body firmly and beautifully. Now, let's talk about the print itself. The Snow White print was heavily inspired by silhouette illustration. This art form began in 18th century France and takes its names from the man called Silhouette. I imagine the silhouettes of the forest tree could be together to form a striking stripe pattern. Snow White felt like a perfectly fairy tale to merge it with this idea. A major source inspiration for me was a French animated film, The Prince and the Princess, which is used as silhouette imagery in a very poetic way. This is my original design sketch. You can see the Snow White and the Queen in disguise at the center, surrounded by long towering trees forming a deep forest. I began working from the sketch, but after spending a long time on it, something felt missing. Snow White, as I had drawn her, did not move me enough. So I made decision to abandon this version entirely. When I started this project, I did not want it to create simply beautiful fairy tale. Instead, I made a bold choice. The moment when Snow White accepts the apple felt deeply dramatic to me, a scene of moving towards the story true climax. It is not a beautiful moment, it is a dangerous one. This way of thinking was inspired by Korean stage play from early 2000, The Dwarf Who Loved the Snow White. The play begins with a simple question: what if Snow White and the prince have happy ending, but one of the dwarfs loved her silently, painfully, without her even knowing? The story centers on the seventh dwarf Pandal, who cannot speak. When Snow White's escape from the queen appears for him, he falls in love in the first sight. To protect her from the queen's endless schemes, he risks his life again and again, expressing love not through words, but through his entire body. Wounded by poison fog and cursed apple, Pandal learns that only true love's kiss can save Snow White. Knowing that he is not her destined partner, he brings a prince instead. Snow White awakens, falls in love with the prince, and leaves the castle, never knowing Pandal's love. Pandal dies alone, consumed by heartbreak. This play was made for children, and of course, it reflects the emotional values of its time. But its theme of selfless love became deeply moving to many adults as well. What matters to me is this question: how would the dwarfs react when death, poison apple, reaches to the Snow White, someone they love like family? So I choose to draw the grieving dwarfs first, and I want the Snow White to have no expression at all. What makes sorrow feel deepest? That question led me to work of Harry Clarke and Gustave Doré. Harry Clarke's stained glass, especially the Devina window, with its elongated figures and stark black and white contrast, left strong impression on me. Doré's dramatic use of light and shadow also deeply influenced my approach. Through them, I became more focused on details and emotional density. This changed my thinking of completely. What I once believed, that dwarfs were not beautiful or main character worthy of the print, no longer felt true. I began by drawing the dwarf first. Their determination, anxiety, impatience, impatience, and finally their despair upon seeing Snow White. That was the emotion I wanted to capture. As their fear grows, the moment when Snow White's hand reaches the apple becomes true tragic. Next to the woman disguised as an old woman, I placed a skeleton. The skeleton symbolizes many things. Has death come for Snow White, or for the evil queen herself? Either way, the skeleton will enjoy the feast. That is why the print called just one bite. For the dwarfs, one bite is enough to lose Snow White forever. For the queen, one bite is a thrill of murder fulfilled. For the skeleton, it doesn't matter who, anyone is worth for devouring. Just one bite. The forest flows downward like a falling tears watching all these emotional unfold. I wanted this emotional climax to become a vast canvas and finally a skirt. And this is the finished print. What do you think? Today I share the story behind of Snow White design. Did you enjoy hearing about it? Let's talk about what story I should bring next. I always read your comments and your support truly give me strength. If you enjoy the story, please like, subscribe, and stay with me. See you next time. Bye!